Hey, everybody. Sorry. Scott Kelby here. Welcome to The Grid. I am joined by my buddy and my co-host, Mr. R.C. Concepcion.
What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? Hey, take a look at my phone.
Oh, that's nice. You have, it's been bedazzled.
It's been bedazzled. So I have a bedazzled phone. If that, I'm
Your
trying
daughter,
to remember.
Sabine, do that?
Yeah, she did that.
She's a
so
sweetie.
I think that's Vidya, the fairy Vidya. So
Yeah, that's definitely Vidya.
Pretty excited about that.
Vidya's not really nice, by the way. I
No.
don't know if you keep up with that. Anyway, welcome. We are so glad to have you guys here today. We kind of didn't have a topic, and then at the last minute, one of our readers came up with, I think, what is a terrific topic today. I'm going to read it to you. The reader's name here is Paul Whitlam.
Whitelam.
Paul Whitelam, and he says, one day on The Grid, I'd love to hear about key things you did during your career that really improved the quality of your work. And a couple of things flew into my head right away, so we're going to talk about that today. We have a lot of different stuff to talk about, but I think that's going to be our key topic today. Right. Want to let you know someone's missing today. We are in the missing man formation.
That's right. We have Brad Moore. The set looks absolutely dark.
Yeah, it's dark where Brad is over there on the set, and the big screen that Brad posts your comments on is also dark too, which is sad. So Brad, though, good for Brad. Brad is on vacation this week. He's from Knoxville, Tennessee, so he's kicking it up in Knoxville, seeing the family and hanging out. So good for Brad, but bad for us today.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those
we can't
things
throw to Brad, and he's not dancing. You know what I would love? I would love to not tell Brad and post a camera, like a second camera that we could go to, like a replay camera, because while Brad is not moderating comments or the comments kind of get, slow or something, he starts just doing the weirdest stuff you've ever seen. You look over there and he's just doing all kinds of weird stuff, and then you go to Brad and he's like,
yeah.
I would love to have that.
It's one of those things where I think it would be pretty amazing to be able to have.
Yep. Tom says double Brad for the next show. Hey, so RC and I are actually going to be moderating your comments today, which means we're going to be kind of distracted and stuff. But RC, we're going to start with got some news. So we had kind of an icon in the photography industry pass away this week.
That's right. Mary Ellen Mark, an amazing New York, Philly-based photographer. She did some work on basically documenting. The best way to be able to explain it is she was an individual who did a lot of black and white photography, and the photography kind of straddled the line between documentary photography and portrait photography. So she has an amazing amount of work, and Petapixel has done a great job of giving you a couple of snippets of interviews that they've done. Profoto did some stuff. Eastman House had done some stuff for her. She had a very famous series called Ward 81 that was done that documented inside of a kind of a state mental hospital. And one of the things that I thought was really cool is that she was a person who used subjects like prostitutes and drug addicts and homeless people and the mentally infirmed. And rather than, one of the things that I've always admired about her work was she was an individual who, we talk about this on the show when we talk about street portraiture. Like sometimes when you look at people that are doing great portraiture, what they're doing is they're documenting life, or they're documenting the experiences of things that you see. But a lot of the times I think people tend to confuse that with like target practice, where they're going out and they're taking a picture of a homeless person. And when you make a picture of a homeless person, if there isn't really a story, or if there isn't any kind of communication that you do within that, then you really are not doing a service to the person that you're shooting. You are really just using them kind of for your own stuff. So it's been termed humanist photography, which is one of those things where it's like you get to see a very, very non-fantasized, non-tabloid way of looking at very, very touched subjects. So I think she was 75 now that she passed away. Wow. And she had been doing some stuff. I mean, she was going to do a workshop in November. She had done some stuff in Oaxaca, Mexico. So a legend, an absolute legend in the lens. And she's done a lot of black and white work. Some color work has been out there. But if you want to see more information about her, make sure that you go take a look at maryellenmark.com. I have her website up here. She has a 20 by 24 Polaroid series. Just recently, I think in 2004, from 99 to 2004, she did this series called Prom, which was basically the documenting of the rite of passage of people doing proms, which I thought was really, really great work. So it's a legend. It's a really, really big thing to unfortunately have her pass. But we should just be celebrating her work. She was just an amazing, amazing photographer. So it's something that I think was worth noting, is worth
No, absolutely.
getting to everybody out there and talking to people about it.
And our thoughts, to her friends and family and her fans around the world.
Yeah. So that was one thing that I thought that was worth mentioning, right? The other thing was just a very, very quick thing. Petapixel ran this concept, and I'd be curious as to what you think of it. There really isn't that much to it, but there's a guy named Richard Prince who had done a whole bunch of stuff, and he had this big gallery exhibit that he did, where basically he was just featuring other people's Instagram shots. Right, that's all he did. All he did was, his entire gallery was, he went on Instagram, found interesting people. The last comment in the Instagram feed was his comment. He took those snapshots and then he posted them in a gallery. And I guess people are talking about buying these things for like $100,000 or something a pop.
Oh yeah, this is
and it's one of those things where you're like,
story.
That's kind of not cool. So it kind of puts you in a position where you're saying to yourself, like, this was a copyright case that he had gone through about using Rastafarians, this guy's photo series on Rastafarians, and on to the right was his appropriation of it and transformation of it. And this was actually in a copyright case that's been since reversed as a documentation of fair use, right? So basically he put some blue lines on top of the Rastafarian, and he says that now this is a transformative work. And it kind of puts you in a position where you're kind of thinking about it and you're like, is this copyright? Is this not copyright? Are your Instagram images safe? Are they not safe? Something that you should kind of be aware of. Don't want to turn this into an episode of, be careful about what you post on Instagram, but be careful of what you post on Instagram.
Well, here's the thing. If you post stuff anywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you post stuff anywhere, you're putting it out there.
Mm-hmm.
When you put something on social media, there's not a thing in the world to stop anybody else from using it, misappropriating it. So if you're really that concerned about that, don't put your stuff on social media. But you know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
You want your images to be seen. As a photographer, this is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
You want your images to be seen. And so it's bad because you could say, I'm going to take these images and I'm going to just keep them to myself. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to be in front of me, then I'll show you a print. But otherwise, nobody gets to see my stuff.
Right.
So we're at a. I hear what you're saying about him, and I don't want to say anything about him personally, but I feel that the intellectual property of photographers is an important thing.
It is. It absolutely is.
I think protecting
important.
your images are important. I remember. This is years ago. I was speaking at a conference, and one of the instructors was from a Middle East country,
mm-hmm.
and he said to me at some point, "We don't believe in copyright."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "He's like, oh yeah, we don't believe in that. It's not in our copyright means nothing to us. Stealing your photography, stealing a book and putting our name on it, or anything. That's all fine. We don't." Doesn't even have it. And I was like,
and it's one of those things.
I don't know what even to say. You're like,
the one thing that I usually tell people about the entire concept of Instagram and social media and things like that is, a lot of the times I'm a very big proponent of copyright and exchange of information. So a lot of the times, like on Facebook and Instagram and things like that, I tend to use those avenues as kind of behind the scenes shots or personal things that kind of lead to talk to people more about me. And they're not necessarily images that I would deal with from an official copyright standpoint. Anything that I would want to have a certain level of protection, and it is not foolproof, is just going to be on my website. So if I were doing something, let's say I'm taking a picture of a specific event or a photo shoot or something like that, a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll use Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to show behind the scenes shots of what's happening, but the final result and the final product of all of that stuff will go invariably on my website. And when it doesn't, 500px and Flickr and things like that, I'm very quick about registering the images with the Copyright Office and making sure that I have those certain levels of protection. Now, that said, if somebody were to come to me, like for example, we'll talk about the Canon thing, and there's something that I'm doing with Canon that I'd love to talk to you about. They'll come to me and they'll go, listen, we want to be able to use your images to do something. This is what we want to do. This is what we're thinking about doing. This is how we would like to work with you on that. If I find that term to be good, then I'll turn around and go, okay, great, wonderful. Go ahead and use those, take those.
Right.
Let's go ahead and highlight that. But they've come to me with some terms, and I said, yeah, those terms seem pretty good to me, and I go ahead and I'll do that.
well, that's business. That's business.
Hey,
I I just saw some comments in the chat. I'm going to answer a question here. First, let me get the person's name before I actually share my screen. It was, so many comments have come in. I'm not going to be able to find out who asked the question. Hold on. I've lost it. I'm sorry. I feel very bad about. I told somebody I was going to answer this question in a minute, and I've lost their comment. But what they were asking was a question about something that I posted this week. And so let me get over to that. Oh, man, having all kinds of problems here. Okay. It was a question about this shot. So I posted this shot yesterday on 500px.
Congratulations, 99.6 on that.
Thank you. It's a series that Kleber and I worked on. I don't know if maybe she can't. I have.
Video
I'm
control room too?
Video. Oh, it dropped off. I was just on video control room too. So hang on. There we go. See if you see it now. All right. So this is the image. And someone in the chat just asked about this and said, because a lot of people ask me, well, how'd you do the lighting and what's the secret? And I'm like, so there's a big window. there's like a big window over there, and like we put her a few feet from the window.
Ickeldot asked.
Yeah.
He says, it was me.
Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. Ickeldot?
Ickeldot.
Okay, Ickeldot. And the question that he asked was, did you go in there knowing that you're going to do, did we take lighting? I'm not joking. This is going to sound bad, but we rented a U-Haul trailer to take the lighting. We had an entire room, a staging room, with all of the gear set up, and we never used a single light the entire day. Not a single light.
It's a great natural light place.
This is just natural. It's a great natural light. RC shot there. In fact, it was RC shooting there, and I'm like, where's this place? And he told me about it. I'm like, I've got to shoot there. So it's a great natural light place, and I wish I could tell you there was some, I'd like to tell you some cool photography deal I did. There wasn't. The only thing I could say, and I taught this in my last tour quite a bit, was when you have natural light, don't put your subject very close to the window. The further you get them from the window, the light's going to be softer and softer and softer. But I didn't want to move it so far away that it was, just kind of incidental light. And so, like you can see a lot of shadows on the side of her arm and on her face and all, but I wanted those things.
Right.
But anyway, Kleber did all the styling. I just had to do the shooting. But so while she's doing the styling and working with the hair and makeup and all that, I can focus on the light. So, and that's all I'm worried about. Like, I'm looking at, she's worried about the posing and the gesture and all, and I'm like, I got to make sure the light's right on her face and all. So I was really focused on that. But yes, we brought a ton of gear, a ridiculous, because can I tell you what Brad's like, what keeps him up at night is for me going, Brad, did we bring the
7-foot parabolic collapsible foldable stock?
Yeah, did we bring the 7-foot parabolic? No. That's what scares Brad. So Brad brought, we had 3 assistants on the set. We had an entire room in this mansion of nothing but gear and never used a single piece. But you know what it is? I was with a photographer once who was on assignment. I was just hanging out with him. He had the assignment. I was his buddy, hanging out. And he walked in to shoot this thing, and he starts pulling all these flashes. And I'm like, not for nothing, but you don't need a flash in here. And he was like, really? And I took a shot and showed him on my camera. He's like, oh my God, you're right. You shouldn't walk into a situation going, I'm going to light this.
Can I just tell you that that's the first thing that I did? When we go back to the topic where we talk about the next thing that kind of moved me up, that was my thing.
Was to stop walking into it and lighting the scene before you got there?
Everybody says the exact same thing, and you went through exactly the scenario that I think the photographers go through. You didn't walk in with Brad with all of that gear aiming to use the gear. You walked in the event that you needed that gear.
Right.
And you made an assessment at the time and said,
I thought we would need it.
Right.
I really did. And we shot the entire day there. And at the end of the day, I said to Brad, oh my gosh, we never used a single light the entire day. And I know that's not true. At the very end of the day, I had a shoot that went so badly. I had the idea. I'd been to, just been to Vegas for my anniversary, and we had seen Love, the Cirque du Soleil show. And at one point, they had these actors come out on stage with an umbrella and a little bit of like dry ice smoke coming out. I thought that would make maybe a cool shoot to do on location. So I got an umbrella, and I had Brad bring a smoke machine. That was a disaster on a level you cannot even believe. So here's the thing. Cirque du Soleil apparently uses a very, very small amount of dry ice. Not a smoke machine. I thought we would take a tube, shoot the smoke up into it, and the smoke would come out. And so we set up the machine. We're in there, and it's me and another assistant. We're in a very small room, a room not much bigger than this set. And smoke machines, they missed. So he goes, and I'm like, Brent, I didn't tell you to press the button. He's like, I didn't press the button.
The chamber fills, and then it just has to release.
And it has to release. And all of a sudden, we're standing in this room, and it looked like we walked into the smoking room at the airport. It was a disaster. And Rob Foldy was our second assistant on the set. Rob built this tube so that it would come out in like, it was so bad. And we pulled out a light to try to make something of it, and it was so bad. So we pulled it out, but those shots will never be seen by any.
That's when you need that. That's when you need that kind of the ghetto low fogger. You ever heard of that, like the ghetto low fogger thing?
No.
So what happens is when you shoot inside of a room with high humidity and high weather, high temperature, fog will all of a sudden just go like this and just shoot straight up.
It's supposed to stay low, right?
Right. So in order to get it to stay low, what they'll do is they'll actually take dry ice and put it inside of a container, run a fog machine with like a PVC cable through that, and then run it on the opposite side. And what it does is it cools the fog at such a low point so that the fog stays low. But the problem is, it's like if it's 90 degrees outside, it'll go and go straight up. So it's just one of those things where
it was a disaster. Anyway. Hey, we're going to take a short break. We have a really great topic today. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about what was the thing that had the most impact on your photography. I've got a couple. RC's got some. Yeah. We want to hear yours. So we'll be monitoring the chat as well. We're going to take a short break. We come back, all kinds of stuff. And we have more stuff. Stuff is good.
See you in a bit.
Hi, this is Joe McNally for KelbyOne, and check out my class, Photographing Your Sense of Humor, shot underwater at the Weeki Wachee Mermaid Springs, the famous home of the mermaids here in Florida. And it's a fun class. Lots of things going on. Stop by, check it out.
Get the world's best photography, Photoshop, and Lightroom training at Photoshop World. It's 3 non-stop days of real-world training where you can get personal attention and unlimited access to the world's top instructors in photography, Photoshop, and Lightroom. You'll have chances to experience hands-on live shoots and workshops. This is a must-attend conference for photographers, Photoshop, and Lightroom users. Learn more in 3 days than you have in 3 years. Photoshop World. Sign up today.
Hey.
Welcome back, everybody,
We're back
to another episode of The Grid. RC here, Mr. Scott Kelby. What's up? We're taking your comments. Make sure that if you're on the KelbyTV.com/The Grid, join us in the chat. We want to be able to hear it. But the topic that we're talking about today is what's that one thing that you've learned in your photography that's kind of moved you further along that, and it doesn't have to be the next level, but just kind of moved you along from one point to another point. So we're monitoring your chat. Brad's not here. We don't have other people here. So we're kind of like looking down and going, somebody said Cheech and Chong. And I'm like, what were they talking about? So I have no idea. That's one of those things. So Scott.
Yes.
Can you give us one thing that starts off this entire story about?
Yeah. So
what would be one thing that?
Well,
that
I'm going to give you
for
3 different topics today. So 3 different genres of photography and what my turning point was in those.
Okay.
And I talked about this first one on my last tour. What was a turning point in my portrait photography? The turning point in my portrait photography was realizing, and it was a big realization, that stop worrying about the foreground. Like, you have a bride. It's a beautiful bride in a beautiful gown with a beautiful veil, and it's her wedding day, and she looks beautiful. That's going to take care of itself. But what's behind the bride, that's what's going to make it a great picture or a cruddy picture. It's really the thing that's going to make it like this is either going to be great or it's going to be horrible. The background is so important, keeping a simple background, getting separation from the background. If I had to point to one thing in portraiture that was like the moment was when I realized the foreground is pretty much going to take care of itself. Right? If you're shooting a person, they're interesting there in 3D and all, but the background behind them, when you start becoming hyper aware of that, that I think will be a turning point in your portrait photography. I think it's actually as important, or maybe more important than the light. Because honestly, how hard is it to put a light at a 45-degree angle in front of somebody?
Yeah.
Right? So if I was going to tell somebody, look, you've never shot a light before, put it in front of them at a 45-degree angle, up high, aiming down at them. If you're off by a couple of inches and it's not awesome, your shot can still be awesome. Mm-hmm. But if you have a terrible background behind you, it doesn't matter how on that light is, it's probably going to make a bad shot. Right. So I'm going to dig up an example for you in just a second. But when it comes to portraiture, that was like a real eye-opening moment for me. I'm going to talk about travel. I'm going to talk about sports too. I have two things on those. But that was it. That was, and I could talk a lot about learning lighting and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, it's such a simple thing for you to fix today. Mm-hmm. Like that's something that when you do your next portrait shoot, if you go, you know what? I have an interesting looking subject, right? I got somebody in front of me that they're interesting looking and they're fascinating looking, or they're pretty, or they're funny, or there's something about them that made me want to photograph them. Mm-hmm. They'll be okay. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying you don't have to interact with it. Don't put words into my mouth. Like Scott says, you don't have to worry about your I'm saying the first thing to worry about is that background.
Right.
Position them in the right place. And this does, by the way, it's not just for portraiture, it leads to all kinds of things. Because let me tell you what, it's just like when I'm shooting sports. This is not the point I'm going to make about sports, but when I'm shooting sports, one of the first things I look at is where do I position myself so I'm not seeing empty seats in the shot. Mm-hmm. The one thing that will kill sports photography is a shot of a basketball court or a baseball stadium or something with a lot of empty seats. It's going to trash your shot. I don't care if the player's leaping up in the air and doing all this really amazing stuff. If there's empty seats in the background, you have a bad background, it's a bad shot. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very, very hyper aware when I'm positioning myself on any field for any sporting event of what's going to be my background over there. And sometimes some of my favorite action images are completely ruined and I never show them because I wasn't paying attention to the background. The background is huge. It's way, way bigger. If you think the background's this much, honestly, it's this much of your shot. I think it's really... That is one of my big things. Now, we want to see your comments, too, so...
yeah, while you're going through the comments, I'll talk to you guys
I'm going to go get an example while we're waiting here.
I'll talk to you guys about one of the things that did it for me in terms of photography. A lot of the times, when I would go in to take a picture, I'd show up with a whole bunch of gear, and I'm just like, all right, ready. I'm ready to be able to do stuff. I got it. What are we going to do? And you're, just frenetic about all of this stuff. And... no idea would come, nothing would happen. I'd be holding all of this gear, and I'm like, I am no further along than I was when I first started the process. And I stopped opening up gear and opening up cameras and getting all of that kind of stuff set up when I get into a location. And I give myself 4 steps whenever I'm working inside of a location. I usually, and this is a mantra, it's like as soon as I got it into my head, I try to do it in everything that I work on. So I start with idea, location, gear, execute. I say to myself all the time in the back of my head, I'm like, idea, location, gear, execute. Idea, location, gear, execute. So when I get to a location, I'm going to use downtown Ybor, which is a place that we shoot all the time. So I'll go to downtown Ybor and I see a person that shows up in front of me and they want to make a picture. Before I open up a camera, before I open up anything, the first thing that I'll say to myself is, what do I want that person to do in this environment? What's the idea? Well, it's a person pensive thinking about this and this and the other, and they're looking back and they're looking sad or what have you. So that's the idea. And so I form an idea and I go, all right, well, that's the idea. Then the second thing that I do is location assessment. Can what's in front of me solidify the idea? So can this building, can this wall, can this location, can this window serve that idea? If it can, then you proceed to the next thing. If it can't, then reform the idea. So the third thing is gear assessment. All right. Well, then at that point, once I have the idea and I have the location, I'm like, all right, this is exactly what I need. What do I have in my bag that can help me get to that idea? And only pull that out. I'm not dumping 50 flashes out. I'm not dumping 4 background stands and all that stuff if I don't need them. I'm going to go, well, what could I do to get that one spot of light? All right, it's 1 flash. Boom. Then you're done. So I assess the location. I assess the gear. Then once I do all of that stuff, I take those 3 elements and then I execute against it. And I go, all right, now that I have an idea, I know where I'm going to do it. I know what I'm going to use to do it. then I target down to be able to do that. And what happens is one of the things that I hope has happened in my work, I think it has, but one of the things that I like is that all of the stuff that I'm doing afterwards, the use of lenses, the uses of flash, the use of environment, the use of gesture, all of that stuff supports the original concept that I wanted to be able to do, which is the idea. And at the end of the day, no one's going to see your flashes, no one's going to see your light stands, no one's going to see any of that stuff. They're going to see the idea. And hopefully, if all of those steps serve that idea, it'll be a very, very clear thing for you. So going into that, I think, has helped me try to become a better photographer, at least kind of move me past one rung over to the next rung when I need that. So it looks like you've got a couple pictures. Did you?
Well, yeah, this thing's still opening up. Oh, wait, 1 second. All right, well, I have another example, but let me see if I can find. I'm almost there. It's right in this area right here. All right, so so here's what we're doing. I'm going to set this up for you. So I'm shooting a bride, and we go out to this beach area, and what I'm trying to do is get this shot of the bride's veil blowing in the wind. Now, can you guys? Okay, there we go. So here's the behind the scenes shot. And what the problem that I'm facing is, and I know, and at this point I had already realized this thing. I'm shooting the bride. She is in a very nice dress. She's a very pretty bride. It's it's sunny day, and when you look, what am I seeing in this shot? I'm seeing a caution sign. Caution, enter at your own risk. That's not really what you want in your shot. No. You've got a cruddy looking sea. You've got a game on the floor. There's nothing good happening here. And I realize that where I'm going to be stuck is making a bad picture. You've got the foreground should take care of itself. And so here's what I'm going to wind up making is this. Look it through look it through the veil. And I'm sitting there and I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with this shot because number one, I'm frustrated. I've got this great long veil, the wind's blowing it, and the shot looks cruddy. How could it, when you have all this great stuff set up, great gown, great outfit, all this stuff, it's the background. The background's absolutely killing the shot. And I'm taking shots and they look just like this. And I'm like, this is awful. And so what's my job? I got to simplify the background. Mm-hmm. So I literally took off my sports coat. I laid in the sand because then I could shoot up and you wouldn't see the grass or the sign. I'm trying to get the grass, the sign, and the very unappetizing water shot looking good. And so once I got down and changed my perspective, here's the shot. Mm-hmm. That's a perfect example of what I'm talking about, where I'm like, when I started worrying about the background, then I realized the foreground will take care of itself. Now, it wasn't like I got down, click, and this was the first shot that came out of the camera. I probably shot 40 shots laying down there. But as soon as I laid down, I realized, I've solved the big problem of this shot. I've solved it. The problem was background. Now, once I got the background solved, now I can try to get a reflector in there and get enough light back in her face and all. And I do not like to bounce light up into someone's face. Mm-hmm. When you use a reflector, you're supposed to be mimicking the sun. The reflector actually should come from a high position down like you would normally put a light. You wouldn't light somebody. You wouldn't take a strobe or a flash and light it from underneath unless you wanted them to look mean. Like if you're lighting a football player, if you're lighting somebody tough, then you'd put the flashlight down low and they go, get them to give you that cool look, right? But you wouldn't do that. But I didn't have a choice here. Now I'm on the ground. She's looking down at me. And I'm looking up, so I had to have, we used a gold reflector, right? And my assistant held it up and bounced it back to her. But anyway, that was part of that turning point. That was part of that moment. If I worry about the background first and I get that down, then I can worry about everything else. So anyway, that was an example. I'm working on the second example for the next one, which is about travel photography. But you know what? While we're doing that, first we're going to take a break. We haven't even mentioned what our giveaways are today, so we have some interesting giveaways.
The first of which is Canon lenses from Snapshots to Great Shots. So this is by Jared Foster. Thank you so much for the folks at Peach Pit for that. If you are looking for specific Canon lenses that are going to take you to the next level, Jared Foster has written the book for that. Thank you for that. And this I thought was kind of cool. I'm like, I don't know if I want to give this away, but we have to. So it's Studio Anywhere. And this is by Nick Fancher. I'll move this over here on this side.
Nick just did a blog post for me that was insane.
Right? And I was like, wow, I want to see more of that. And as it turns out, you can. So Nick Fancher's got a book. This is going to be very, very, very hot. Now, while we're doing this, I do want to read a couple of different things that have come in from the chat. Jeff May said, turning point. 2 things that changed my shooting. 1, doing graphic design. Now, instead of just shooting, I think I can use this in an ad. So he's thinking about it from an ad standpoint, so that's pretty good. Number 2, I stopped worrying about having to get a photo even when I do not feel that that a photo is worth getting. This one I think is pretty interesting.
That's a good. He's willing to walk away from the shoot if you know.
And that part I think is really cool. And this has been often kind of debated and misconstrued when you're working with it, because I even myself, I used to turn around and say that. I was like, in order for you to have a great picture or to do a great picture, you have to be able to walk into a room and go, there is no picture to be had. And it sounds so self-involved. Like you walk in and you're like, there's no picture here. I'm done. Right? But it's not so much that. It's like when you walk into a scenario, I think that as a photographer, you should walk in and say to yourself, I don't think that there's a picture here. You should want to try, so go out and give it a shot. But when you do, if you look at your work and you go, I don't think that there's anything there, you have to be comfortable with that. You have to be comfortable with looking at your take and going, you know what? There was nothing. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You'll come back to it. There'll be another next time. It'll be fine. I always tell people that photography is a lot like fishing. You got to go out there. You got to fish. Sometimes you get one. Sometimes you don't. But you come back with a great story. You come back with something that's really neat.
Sometimes you get a fish. Sometimes the fish gets you.
That's right. That's right. So look at it that way. I think it's a great thing to be able to do that. So Jeff, you're definitely on the right track with that.
All right. So we're giving away those books. I'm going to throw something else in the mix.
Yes,
we're giving away.
please.
I'm going to give away a ticket to my Swing in London seminar. I'm coming to
wow.
London,
Fancy.
England. That's a little joke there. I know how it's pronounced. London, England. I'm going to be there on July 14th.
I'm going to go check at the KelbyOne.com/live.
Yes.
I'm going to go to seminars and
click on London, right? I would love to spend the day with you. Please come out and check out my seminar. I did one there last year, and we had a ball. I had the best crowd there ever. I mean, it was great. We're at the Church House Conference Center in Westminster, which is like literally, I'm not joking, right behind Big Ben. And yes, Big Ben is the name of the guy that guards the tower. No,
it is?
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
No, anyway.
I was like, wow, that slipped by me.
Okay, so anyway, we're going to give away one of those as well. So that I know we have a lot of folks from the UK. I saw in the chat we have some UK viewers, and also we have a deal. Did you talk about the Peach Pit deal?
No, I haven't. Make sure
we got a deal from Peach Pit.
Make sure you go to peachpit.com/KelbyOne, enter in the code KelbyOne, and you're going to get this book. It's Peter Reeds Miller on sports photography.
That is an awesome. Can I tell you something? I have that book. I read that book cover to cover on a flight. That is an awesome book. That's one of the best books I've ever read on sports photography, hands down. I learned I learned things in that book that I do when I'm shooting games to this day.
Right, and you can get 40% off of that.
Terrific stuff.
Deal. So you're gonna absolutely.
What's the code, RC?
Make sure you go into peachpit.com/KelbyOne, enter in the code KelbyOne. So, do you want to give another thing?
Now we're going to take a break and then we'll come back and give a thing.
Okay.
Break and the thing.
We'll do the break, and then when we come back,
and a thing.
We're going to show you Scott's thing.
I'm going to look at your comments.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm UK photographer Glyn Jewis, and I really hope you'll come and check out my brand new class, Shooting Muscular Sports Physiques, only on KelbyOne.com. Now in this class we're going to be on location in a real life boxing gym, and I'm not just going to show you multiple lighting setups, but I'm also going to show you how I can get the most out of each of those setups to get a variety of different shots. Now we're going to be photoing a couple of kickboxers who've already got muscular physiques, but I want to show you just a couple of simple tips and tricks that'll take a great muscular physique and make it look fantastic all on location. So come and check out my brand new class only on KelbyOne.com.
Welcome back, everybody. RC here with Mr. Scott Kelby on the grid, talking a little bit about what kinds of things did you guys do that took your photography a little bit further in its journey. So I shared one, Scott shared one. You have another one that you want to share.
I got one for travel, all right? I've never talked about this.
Okay.
And it was funny because I was, I took a couple of vacations here. My wife and I went with some friends to France, and then 2 weeks later I went, my wife sent me on a trip with my brother for my Christmas present, sent me to Spain.
Okay.
And during this, I was talking to my brother about my overriding thing that I'm doing when I do travel photography, and I realized I've never talked about this in a class. But it's what is my ongoing thought process while I'm shooting travel photography. I haven't talked to you about this.
No, you haven't.
I haven't talked to anybody about this. Ready?
I am ready.
Are you ready? You're sitting down?
Wait, hold up.
All right, let's get ready.
Now I am.
Okay.
Okay. Please tell me.
So this is not like mind-blowing, but when you think about it, it's very helpful.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do when I'm shooting travel photography is to be very, very, very hyper-aware of that what I am photographing has a timeless sense to it. And I'll give you a perfect example. If I'm shooting, for example, a rowboat I'm in a harbor and there's a rowboat, I will move and climb and do anything I can so you don't see a brand new boat in the background with an Evinrude engine on the back. That breaks the timelessness. A rowboat could have been taken 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 50 years ago.
Right.
A new boat in the background with an Evinrude engine on it says this is a brand new photo. And I think one of the coolest things that we can do is bring a sense of timelessness to where you don't know, oh, this was shot last year, this was shot last week. Oh, there's a Coca-Cola sign in there, unless the Coca-Cola sign looks like it's from the 1940s. Mm-hmm. So I just really quickly pulled up an image for you. It's a terrible image. I never shared this. I didn't put it online. This is the out of camera image. But I can tell you one reason why I would never share this. Look in the bottom left corner. There's two rowboats, and then there's a pontoon boat.
Is that what that's called?
That pontoon boat? Yeah, it's on pontoons. Well, no, it's a what is it? It's like a.
I don't know anything about boats, so it's just like for me.
Okay,
you could say
I'm sorry, it's not a pontoon boat. It's an inflatable raft boat. It's a
dinghy.
No, it's not a dinghy. What do you
rowboat.
call it? No, it's a Zodiac. It's like a Zodiac boat or something. But it's modern. It's obviously very, very modern.
Right.
So in front of me, directly in front of me, are two old rowboats. Behind them is a rowboat, another rowboat, but then you see one with a motor hanging off it, and then you see this pontoon boat. Completely kills the shot. This was a bad shot to begin with. It wasn't because of the boat. This is I think I put a fisheye on just to see what it would do, and it's like I immediately threw the fisheye in the water because it was a bad shot. But the fact that there was a pontoon boat completely kills it. Mm-hmm. If I was trying, here's what happened. I took the shot, looked and went, and I didn't keep on with it. If I went, there's something here, and I just have to keep working the scene until I come up with it, my first spot would be I've got to remove that boat from the scene. Right. If there's anything in there that's going to give you a hint as to the time it was taken, the period of time, that's my first thing, is to get rid of it. To compose the shot, to create a sense of timelessness. In my travel photography, I didn't realize how much I do that. But if you go back and look at, if you go to exposure.co,
think so.
Search for me, Scott Kelby. I posted my last couple of trips there. And if you look at the images, and maybe we'll get a chance to look at them in a minute. If you look at the images, you'll see exactly what I'm trying to create. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to create a sense that this could have been taken at any time. Mm-hmm. So I try, like if I'm composing something, I try to not have new buildings. I don't want to see a big shiny building behind. I'll compose to where all you see is the old buildings. Because to me, if the big building shows up in the background or there's something new, it kind of kills the shot.
Right.
It's just my take on it, but it's something that I haven't talked about, which is basically composing out stuff that's distracting. So that would be my travel tip. I still have a sports one coming up. But while you're looking for that, I'm going to go look for this.
Okay, you know where I'm going with this. So.
Yeah, I do. Hey, what did I say? I just said I was going to show. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got it. Sorry.
All right.
I have memory retention of a hamster.
I'm going to send this out here. So let's see here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here.
John wrote, inflatable boat, blow dart, problem solved.
And we're done here. All right. So I'm a big fan of a photographer named Arnold Newman. Arnold Newman, and I've talked about this several times, where I think he was a guy, he was a photographer that went out and actually just grabbed the essence of a picture.
Awesome,
right?
by the way.
The picture of Stravinsky at the piano on Arnold Newman, I think, is probably one of my most favorite pictures because it's almost kind of like, think of it as a chef, right? So don't show anymore. Just come back to me. Because what happens is this, right? So what'll happen is, a lot of the times we take a whole bunch of different things and we throw them inside of a pot, and then we just try to mix them together, and then you just throw it in front of a plate of somebody. But like if you wanted to create a good sauce, right, you have to reduce the theme, reduce the elements, and put them on the fire and reduce it and get rid of a lot of the extra stuff. I have a very big respect for logo designers. I wish I knew how to do logo design because I think that people being able to kind of cook all of that stuff down to a very small component is something that's essential. You get rid of the extra stuff. Newman, I believe, did that when he made this picture of a person, Stravinsky at the piano. This is all you saw, right? So the use of the piano, the use of the wall, the use of him on the frame, all of that kind of stuff. I was just like, that's brilliant to be able to see. And I remember being such a pompous person because I would turn around and tell people, I don't like to crop. I don't like to do this. I don't like to process. I don't like to do this. And it's like, at the end of the day, I think that I took, or I hope I took, a leap when I turned around and I said, the only thing that I need to serve in photography is the image that's in my head. That's it. I don't have to serve cropping. I don't have to serve post-processing. I don't have to serve. I'm not a documentarian. I'm not a photojournalist. So for me, the only thing that I need to live up to is the idea that I have inside of my head. So if it means cropping, then crop it, right? If you crop to a really weird angle, all that means is that you have to go to a custom framer to get a frame to put that. That's it. It means that you can't go to Target for a frame. That's all cropping means. So to that, it's like people get freaked out about it. And I'm like, you can't get a 3.2 anyway. So why are you freaked out about it? Crop, if it's excessive. Try to do it in the camera. But if you can't, and the picture's inside of it, do that. Serve your picture first. Anything else? Fair game to do it. So this was the picture. And then not too long afterwards, I find out, it was cropped. I'm looking at it and I'm like, what did I think? How did I think that this person shot it? He took a look at the picture, and inside of the picture, he said, this is the picture. That's like about 50% cropped. Matter of fact, he did it more than once. And it's like we become so dogmatic on a bunch of rules in photography that we have no idea where they came from. Shoot in the frame. Make sure you don't do these. Don't add filters. Don't do all that stuff. You're serving all of these invisible masters, and at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is the image that's in your head. You make a really, really small picture, and this is all you have, get a really big mat. Put it on a really, really big frame, and have the picture be this big. I always tell people at the end, it's one of those things. I get on a big soapbox about it because people are like, well, you just cut out half the picture. You can only do like a 4x3. And I'm like, the Mona Lisa's like this big.
Yeah, Mona Lisa.
That's it.
It's amazing when you see it in person. You're like, I always thought it was this big. I always thought it was like big. It's just like very small.
Anyway, so that was the one thing. It was just a lot of the times I like said to myself, and not that there should be no rules, but that at the end of the day, the number one rule is, what image did you want to make? Is all of that stuff in the image that you wanted to make? Get it out. If you need a filter to be able to do it, get it out. Whip it out. Put the filter on it. Put the adjustments on it. That stuff will help you. Anyway, that was the other change for me.
All right, so I was looking for an ideal example. I don't have really an ideal example, so I'm just going to roll on. I could dig one up, but by the time I dig it up, the show will be over because the show's over in about 11 minutes. No, a little bit more, 15 minutes. All right. So I did want to talk about the third genre of when I had this moment of was about sports photography. And it's been reinforced by people who've looked at my photography. People like Peter Reed Miller and people who've looked at Dave Black. And it's man, you talk about nerve-wracking to have those guys do a one-on-one portfolio review with you on your sports photography. It's like very, very terrifying. But they were great, and everything they said, I really took to heart.
Would Peter be like the most like like you've had a lot of people take a look at your work, because if there's one thing that you do is you do get a lot of people to take a look at your work.
Well, yeah, that's
Would
how
he
you,
would he
that's
be
how you,
would
one
he be
way
kind of
you
like
grow.
the? Is it always
Yeah.
a nerve-wracking experience?
It is always nerve-wracking. I asked Joe McNally to look at my portraits. I got a portrait review from Joe. It was very nerve-wracking. Number one is, it doesn't do you any good unless they tell you the truth. And so I tell them up front, look, I know we've known each other a while, but I'm asking for your help. Your help isn't, hey, good shot. Your help is, you got to fix this, you got to do that. One of the first things Joe said is, what is this shot doing in your portfolio? Why is this in your, get that go, that's awful, get it out of here. And I couldn't hit delete fast enough. And so if you ask somebody for portfolio review, it's somebody whose opinion you respect, right? The last thing you should do is argue with them. And you know what, this actually happened to me this week. So can I tell you a little story?
Please do.
Hi.
Hi.
This week a gentleman asked me,
Go to
hey,
StoryCam.
Go to StoryCam. So this week, a gentleman asked me, a caller from Des Moines. No, a guy asked me, I don't have time to do this very often, but he said, hey, you know, I'm shooting some sports photography, you know, take a look and see what you think and just let me know. And so, you know, number one is I don't ever go and critique somebody's work without being asked. Right. I don't say anything. I don't say your shot's bad, you should change this. They don't ask me, but he asked me to please critique his work and let him know where it went. So I looked at his stuff, and technically his stuff was good.
Right.
Technically his stuff was on the money. Like his camera technique was good, all this kind of stuff. But I went through about 20 images on his portfolio, and I explained exactly the things that were wrong. Now, though, how did I know that these things were wrong? Because people had told me the exact same thing. People that I really respect, like giants in the sports industry, said, yeah, you're not doing this right. Why are you doing this and all? So I gave him that, and I tried to do it in a nice way because he had some pictures that were right on the money, but he had a lot of pictures that were, just to give you an example, his first picture in his portfolio was guy running with a ball. And I wrote to him, and I was very frank with it, but I was nice. I was like, yeah, so your first picture, while it's in focus and it's sharp and you can see the player's eyes and you can see the ball and that's all good, it's a guy running with a ball. Do you know how that happens? How often that happens in a football game? Every single play in the NFL, every day, all day, is a guy running with a ball. Do you know how much call there is for just a guy like this with a ball? 0. I said, what you're looking for is the peak moment of action. You're looking for this moment that makes you just go, wow. And I think what he was leaning on was, I technically have this right. Look, background's out of focus. Check. You can see the player's eyes. Check. Blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's an absolutely who cares image. Well, as I went through his portfolio, this was the permeating thing inside his portfolio, was 2 guys playing soccer, or football for our friends in the UK. Anyway, 2 guys playing American soccer, and they're running and the ball's over there. It's 2 guys running after a ball. How often does that happen in soccer?
All the time.
The whole game. There's 2 guys running after a ball for the entire game. So I try to say, you know, you got the ball bouncing off a guy's head. If they're reaching for something, you've got a goalie jumping in the air. If you have a goalie just about to catch a ball, there's a million reasons where you could get a really, really great shot that would be portfolio worthy. 2 guys chasing after it. And he had a bunch of shots like that. Like he had some refs walking out, and there was just 4 refs walking out. Cricket, 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 you know. So anyway, I went through it and I said, now this shot's good. Look at the emotion. Look at this. Now you got a peak moment of action. You know, the person's expression and the sweat and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that moment.
Gesture.
And I took quite a lot. Gesture, thank you.
As Jay would call it.
We call it peak
Gesture.
moment of action. Right, but in sports that we call it. And so
right.
I went through his whole portfolio, like 20, 25 images, and I said, this one's great. This one rocks. Don't change a thing. This one, they're not doing anything. You know, it's like, da, da, da. Of course, he writes back and says, well, you know, Scott, for the people I shoot for, this is just what they're looking for. And I'm like,
you can't argue that they
okay.
want crappy stuff. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know what to say. You know, I was like, He says, well, the people that I shoot for, the colleges I shoot for, they're looking for this, they're looking for that. Well, why did you ask me? If you got it down and your client is thrilled, don't ask me for a thing, because I'm going to tell you what I really feel like. And so I think number one is when you do get a critique like that, it's really important for it to be honest. And it's really important for you to, if it's somebody that you ask to do it, like you wouldn't ask somebody you think, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'll see what they think of my work. You're going to go, And so
They must be shooting for Boring Illustrated.
Yeah. So anyway, but so that was a turning point for me. Two things. It's a two thing. Was number one is the technical is not enough. Mm-hmm. Just getting the eyes in the photo. Just getting it was like that he had read an article about these things should be in sports, but they left off the part that it should be exciting for the viewer, that it should be action and it should be great and all. Now, you could be a professional sports photographer and say, well, what if you want to do a trading card? They just want one player up. That's true. What if it's just for, you're shooting, there are all kinds of things, but if you're going to be shooting for a college or for a, unless they give you a specific assignment, because sometimes you'll get an assignment that says, follow this player. And I've shot entire games where all I was supposed to do was follow a particular player, and that was it. And whether they were by themselves or they're waiting on the line or whatever it is, I'm still taking shots. Mm-hmm. That's different. But anyway,
that's not a port either.
I was looking at his portfolio and giving, but so that's one. But the second thing is I think that our job as a photographer in sports, all right, is to do two things. The overall thing is to tell the story. But what to tell the story means sometimes is to have a storytelling shot that captures this very wide, very big, we're in a stadium, we're on a field, we're at the Olympic pool, set the stage, show the scene. But I think our job is to bring something to the viewer that they can't see by themselves.
Can I ask a question while you're there?
Yes, you may.
I just thought of this. But you give us a lot of these sports opinions, not just as Scott Kelby, book author, blah, 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 guy who writes a check kind of thing, more of as a person who's worked in the sports thing. You shoot for SportsWire. You get images to these people. So you do this as a business, right?
Yeah.
You've done this as a pro level. You've done this for a service.
Yeah, and I
you
shoot for teams too, and
right.
I'm not going to make my living at this. I can tell you that, but I do have to do it with the same constraints everybody else that is shooting the game is doing.
Is
too.
every picture that you submit to these people that sports winning portfolio shot, or is it a picture of Deion Sanders running, breaking a tackle for such and such and such and such?
Yeah, no, you know what it is? I have to basically upload 50 images from a game. I try to get between 30 and 50 that are good. A lot of times I upload 50 and I wouldn't put a single one in my portfolio.
That's where I was going with. Because I think that what happens is when people take a look at sports and people take a look at, and all of this kind of work is, if you're working for a client and you're doing some stuff, the requirements the client has for you could be very, very different. Could be photographer breaking a tackle, make sure that you get me all of this information. But it's not like you're sitting there at the game going, these 50 will be my next portfolio images. You can walk out and be like, none of them will be.
Dude, if I shoot a game and I get one portfolio image, I am thrilled on a level you can't believe. I'm like, oh my God, that's going to my port. I am thrilled. Right. Ansel Adams said once, he said, 6 significant images in any year is a good take. Right? If it's 6 images that can go on your port, I think it's a great thing. I want to wrap up my thing because we don't have much time. But my other thing was, so the first part was the peak moment of action. Right. The second part was actually getting to tell the story. And while I do shoot wide, and I'll climb up to the top of the stadium and get a fisheye shot and a super wide angle shot and all that kind of stuff. But I want to bring the viewer something that they can't see. If they're sitting in the stands or they're watching on television, they're going to see a certain view. But I want to get in there so tight. I want to show them things they would never see. I want them to see a ball being stripped that they didn't know that. I want to see a hand on a face mask that never got called. I want them to see parts of the game that you don't see every day that are interesting, or a ball coming out that you didn't really see and maybe the guy brought it back in. But it happens so fast with video that you wouldn't even see it. And that's one of the I think the magic of photography is being able to stop a moment and see something that happened in the wink of an eye that you wouldn't have seen just watching the play in video. Mm-hmm. And so I think so for me, getting in really tight was really important. But it was Dave Black, May I mention that name?
Mm-hmm.
Dave Black said something to me where he said, look, his sentence was go big or go home. And what he was talking about is, okay, you're in the end zone and you're shooting a 400 millimeter lens. The guy next to you in the end zone is shooting a 400 millimeter lens. The next guy is shooting a 400 millimeter lens. You're all basically going to get the same shot. You got to put a tele-extend on there. You got to get in closer. You got to do something. You've got to go big. Shoot 600. Shoot it 800 millimeter. Put it 2 times on there because you're going to bring something different. You're going to bring a closer perspective, something they couldn't see, something they couldn't get. Go big or go home. So that was the other revelation was I think it's part of my job to get in really, really tight to show the emotion of the game. And that's why I shoot a lot of detail shots too. I shoot a lot of things that aren't action, that are the details. In fact, if you go to my sports portfolio, I'm going to give you the address for it here in a second. If you go to my sports portfolio, I actually have an entire category, because all my sports is on a separate site. I have an entire category called Game Day Detail. So here's where I'm at. I'm at scottkelby.com. I'm scottkelby.squarespace.com. So scottkelby.squarespace.com. That's all my football stuff. And I have a game day detail, a whole thing of just stuff that is not game action, right? This is obviously before the game. It'd be a weird game if that actually
That's awesome.
happened during the game. And I'll just show you a few more, and hopefully you'll go check them out afterwards. But this is just stuff that is surrounding the game, things that are around the game, but isn't actually the game itself. So anyway, I hope you'll go
like
check
that
that
one.
out if you get a second. So game day detail. Anyway, so that was the thing for sports. So those were my 3 things for today. Was those 3 things? Was the becoming aware of the backgrounds for portraits, for travel, becoming really aware of the timelessness, trying to make photos that are timeless, don't show modern day stuff that ruins it. Like I mentioned this before on the grid, when you go to the Sphinx in Egypt, which is where the Sphinx usually is, unless it's moved, right at the base of the Sphinx is a Pizza Hut, like right there. It was either Pizza Hut or a 7-Eleven. It's right there. I was stunned. There's a strip mall, and you're like looking at the Sphinx, and like right there, it's like, well, I'll only go grab a pizza real quick. When you were climbing the Great Wall in China, you were going to walk right past, as you're climbing, a Subway sandwich shop. Right there. Now, somebody might go, I think that makes a great shot to show a Subway at the Great Wall. Absolutely, I agree. It's a great juxtaposition of look how screwed up the Great Wall is. They got a Subway there. Look, here's the Sphinx, and oh my gosh, there's Pizza Hut. So anyway, it's that. That's one type of photography. But I think cropping that out or in the camera, like somebody mentioned earlier, I saw a comment in the forum in the chat where somebody said, "Why don't you just crop the boat out?" I absolutely could crop the boat out. The point I was making was
it shouldn't be there.
I wouldn't have to. I would never have to crop that boat out because I would just turn, right? I would just turn because that composition thing, even though I'm not an anti-crop guy, I will crop if I need to. But I think that's kind of the basic craft of photography.
Yes. There's no reason for you not to go, just crop it later.
Yeah,
if you can get it in the camera.
If I get the camera, I want to get it in the camera. I want to get it right. I mean, I think there's some pride and some craft and some history to that. But that being said, if I were to open up and realize that I got the back quarter of that pontoon boat in there, I would crop that in a second I might even use just content aware fill or something. I don't have any problem with that stuff. But I think at the basis of it, our responsibility just to ourselves and to the art of photography is to just try to get it right in the camera. And I do. It's always my thing. I'm not a stickler about cropping. I will crop if I need to, but it's because either, like Newman, saw a photo within the photo. All right, but now, before we go, can we talk about your thing?
Yes, we can talk about
All right, RC I'm going to set it up real quick because RC did something really, really, really cool. So RC, I'm not going to steal all this thunder, but RC got sent on assignment. And he basically was sent on assignment to create really whatever kind of pictures you wanted, right? And so RC decided to invest in this since he was getting paid. handsomely. Anyway, he decided to invest in it and to fly someplace to make these pictures.
Right.
And so anyway, he's a part of a really cool thing, which is it's a campaign.
Right.
It's also going to be a gallery showing.
Right.
I mean, it's grown to be a really big thing. We're very excited for RC that he got to do this. So tell us about the.
Yeah. If you want to read about it, you can go to bit.ly. I'm gonna put it up here. I'll get you the link in a second. But anyway, if you go to aboutrc.com, you should see it. It's right on the main page. It says, join me for a special photography event. But basically, the folks at Canon had asked me, Canon Printing had asked if we can work on this contest together, and they wanted to feature a couple of my images at the Joshua Lehner Gallery. And this is going to happen on June 12th and 13th. So if you're in the area in New York City, June 12th or 13th.
Dude, you got your images in a gallery in New York
it's pretty
City.
Cool. It's pretty cool. I'm very excited.
Dude,
so this
you
is
should
part
be
of
freaking thrilled.
I am very excited about it. So this is part of the From Light to Ink campaign. And what I thought that they did that was even cooler than that. I mean, I'm very grateful for it. But what I thought they did that was even better was the fact that they had me go out and talk to people about it. And they said, go ask people. There's this theme of embrace. It was just called Embrace. And they left it very open because embrace can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I went out and I was like, all right, well, tell everybody about it. And people got to submit pictures. And out of those pictures, we picked two winners, or we're picking two winners. And those two people are going to have them and a friend be flown up to New York City. And they're going to have a picture in the gallery as well.
Isn't that cool?
So I thought that was
Seriously,
really nice.
that's huge.
I thought that was really nice.
Set that back up again because I want it to just go by quickly.
Yeah.
Because this is a cool opportunity.
Yeah. So I have 7 people that. I think I have like 7 images that are in the gallery now, and then they had us pick several people. They had us just ask for people for images, and they said, listen, if one of the pictures is chosen, they will fly you up. They will put you up.
They will fly you to New York City
with a friend.
And
put your picture in the gallery.
And put your picture in a gallery in New York City,
yeah. So
along with RC's.
Yep. So that's gonna be at the Joshua Lehner Gallery in New York City, and I think it's. I want to say it's probably somewhere in Chelsea at that point.
And you're going to be there, right? You're going to go there.
I'm going to be there.
RC's going to be at his New York gallery showing.
And
by the way, how obnoxious is RC going to be about? It'll always be like, well, when I was at my gallery showing in New York, are you going to be doing that? Are you going to be that guy?
I might.
He might. He's going to be. You know what he's going to be?
I reserve the right to get a silk scarf and just.
He's going to be that guy.
For just a little bit.
He's gonna
But anyway, I'm very happy.
Guy.
I'm very happy to work with the people at Canon for the event. Thank you very much to ask. And if you guys want to see more information about that, make sure you go to aboutrc.com. If you are in the New York area or anywhere near the New York area, make sure you take a look at that and stop by. I'm sure they'd love to see you. I certainly would love to see you.
Yeah, bingo, bango. RC's got a gallery showing in New York. Wonderful to hear about that again.
Thank you very much.
Probably not. Anyway, congrats. On all serious, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's very, very cool.
Thank you very much.
They couldn't have picked a better guy to do it. And your project what you went out and shot, you haven't revealed that yet, have you?
What? Oh,
have
no, yeah. We've shown, I've shown all the pictures. The images I've already submitted.
Okay, good. All right.
I'm literally at the part right now where I'm picking the 2 images.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, want to do something cool? I know you do. Want to watch a cool class? So our friend Joe McNally, one of our instructors here at KelbyOne, just released a class. And the name of it is, they're calling the class Photographing Your Sense of Humor. But what actually it is Joe goes on location to a place not far from where our headquarters are. It's called Weeki Wachee Springs. And if you've ever heard of Weeki Wachee, they are famous for having a mermaid show. So Joe has always had this idea to do this underwater photo shoot. And so in true McNally fashion, he literally pulls out all the stops to make sure that he has the lighting and the crew and the location and the vision with live mermaids, and you know how hard those are to find. So go check it out. They call it Photographing Your Sense of Humor, but I think it's really about you doing something just very off the wall. And
Going for it.
He totally goes for it. We also had another class that went live at the same time, Mastering the Family Outing. And so typical family outings occur in like really busy places, amusement parks and places like that, where they have challenging lighting and uncooperative family members and lots of movement from place to place. So Annie goes to the Miami Metro Zoo and basically takes you everything you need to know how to capture like great family pictures on your vacation this summer. The timing could not be better because summer is
awesome.
Almost here. Or if you live in Florida, it's been here for a few weeks now.
That made me want to go to the Miami Metro Zoo. I'm like,
That's
it made
a very
me want
nice
to go.
zoo, right?
It made me want to go to the zoo, and it made me like I'm taking a look at it, and it's like just key things to be able to remember when you're going in your family outing. I thought it was great.
And Annie's terrific. She's a terrific teacher.
And it's Ron McGill from the Miami Zoo.
Right. And you were like, oh.
It's really cool. You have to go take a look at that class.
All right.
You will
Hey,
love it.
where do we go to get the giveaways? We're giving away 3 things today. We're giving away a couple of great books and a ticket to my London seminar. Go to KelbyOne.com/contest.
All you have to do is put in your name, put in your email address, put in your website, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you want to win.
Yeah,
Do
it's
you wanna
important
win
that you tell us which one of these you want to win.
Nick Fancher's book.
Nick's very good.
Do you want to win Canon From Snapshots to Great Shots by Jared Foster? Or do you want to win
The Swing in London
the
ticket.
Swing in London tour day?
Swing in London. All right.
Somebody just said, where is it? I got to find it. Where is it? No.
Did you lose your
Somebody wrote, henceforth, let me see if I can, henceforth, called R. Von C. Esquire.
Oh, yes, from his gallery sharing.
Meh.
I don't know if we mentioned.
So, anyway, I thought that was
Gallery
kinda neat.
sharing.
Now, also, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you can get all the latest tips, tricks, and techniques. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you go ahead and do that. Had to get that in there.
Yes, please go to our YouTube page. RC, where can people go and learn more about you? Because people want to know about you and your gallery showing.
You can find out everything about me over at...
Can you tell how jealous I am? I'm just being jealous. I'll just straight up, who doesn't want a gallery showing, your work shown in a gallery in New York City? Just raise your hand. Nobody. Everybody wants that. So I'm just being a jealous wiener. Go ahead.
So for more information on the gallery show and anything else that I'm doing, just take a look at aboutrc.com.
By the way, I meant jealous whiner, not jealous wiener. That sounds like, that's worse, right? Is that worse?
That's I didn't know you were watching. Sorry. For more
Cricket.
information on Scott, where could they find out more about you?
Go to scottkelby.com. It's my daily blog. I write it, a bunch of days a week, and it just kills me.
And
LightroomKillerTips.com, where RC is supposed to write every week, but seldom does.
I will be writing I'm supposed to be writing every Wednesday.
Yes, you are. Did you write today?
From hitherto, RC Von Esquire, I've been busy with my gallery show. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Sorry.
Anyway, come take a look at Lightroom.
Couldn't get a post up today because he's busy
Sorry.
with his gallery show.
Sorry.
Where is it?
Last one at the Joshua Lena Gallery,
In?
New York City.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Well, we're a couple minutes over.
Anyway,
You don't want the network execs to get mad.
thanks so much, guys, for stopping by. We will see you guys back here next week on another episode of The Grid. Take care. Gallery wave.
Gallery wave. Do the gallery wave. There you go.